Welcome to Travel Matters, and oh my God, we are in Marbella, Spain, and we're just, I would almost say, minutes away from the kickoff. At least hours away from the kickoff, and I'm here with Rick, and I'm also joined by Mr. Shane Dallas, the Travel Camel himself, the conference director of TBEX Europe. Hi, guys.
Wonderful to be here. Finally, we're back in Europe.
We're back in Europe, and it is so hot here in Spain. I guess it's hot even for you coming from, well, Australia and Kenya.
This is much cooler than Kenya. Went for a swim in the pool before, and I think the temperature was about 10 Celsius
Honestly,
cooler.
Pale, I think it's because you did a half marathon today is why you felt that it's hot. It wasn't actually, I think the weather is perfect this week.
Yeah.
So it's not hot for me at all. I expected it to be warmer, actually.
Welcome to Travel Matters, the official podcast of TBEX. Here are your hosts, the radio vagabond Palabo and TBEX CEO Rick Calvert. Here are your hosts, the radio vagabond Palabo and TBEX CEO Rick Calvert. Today's co-host is Travel Camel Shane Dallas.
Guys, I'm so excited for TBEX that kicks off, tomorrow morning right now when we're recording this. So when people listen to this, if they listen straight as it comes out, in a few hours. So what can we expect?
Well, it's been really interesting. Once all the speakers were chosen and I read through all of the sessions, you will see that there's a strong marketing focus to a lot of these sessions. So as we've seen with the pandemic, tourism emerging from that time, we're seeing that there is a need of how can we market what we have. A lot of people know the content. There are some exceptions, of course. We've got TikTok here. Leach Brock is talking about TikTok, so that's a new format for a lot of people. But we're not talking about new ways of doing content. We're talking about new ways of communicating that content, and that is very much strongly focused in this edition of TBEX Europe.
Yeah. And for people, if they're really quick and listen to this in the morning before the conference, while they're brushing their teeth, walking to the conference hall, and they're a first-timer, they should remember that Kerwin is back doing the first-timer session.
First-timer session at 8 o'clock, and I will be there as well. And so even if you're not a first-timer, it is worth coming along to, because you will still learn something. It's not just for first timers. I've never been to TBEX. This is my first one. Yes, go along. But even if you've got experience, it's been a few years since we last had one in Europe. So come along and have a listen to what we say. It's not just Kerwin speaking as well. We're giving an overview from a few different perspectives for attendees.
Yeah,
Kerwin McKenzie, one of our favorite people, frequent TBEX speaker, really friendly, popular guy. And also Jaume Marin will be there with him.
Yes.
At that first-timer session. He can speak to a little bit from the DMO industry perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, because we had that when we spoke about TBEX North America, that a lot of the speakers were lined up pre-pandemic. Is that the same case here, that some of the names have been in play, even for TBEX Catania that got postponed?
Yeah, we brought as many people from TBEX Catania as we could. And we did bring quite a few off, but when we changed dates, we lost quite a few. So we still have quite a few people here. We still have our keynotes, our opening keynote and the first keynote on the second day. They are the same. We still have Omo and Yolanda
from Dip Your Toes In.
Yep, and we have our three journalists talking about how to earn the trust of your audience. That is still the same, and we have quite a few of the sessions. But interesting that some of the focus of what they were going to talk about in Catania is now different post-pandemic. So we're seeing a slight shift in what their
because
content
things changed in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
As you and I talked about in North America, Pally, TikTok didn't exist in between our last conference.
It grew a lot, yeah.
And this conference. I don't think TBEX existed when we were in Ostrava.
TikTok, you mean?
Yeah, TikTok. What did I say?
TBEX.
Oh, TBEX. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yeah. TikTok didn't exist at the last TBEX conference before the pandemic in Europe.
Correct.
Exactly.
Nevertheless, it's become huge, even for travel content creators, not just dancing teenagers. I think that was more what it was back then.
Yes, and Jen Ruiz did a talk about TikTok in Tri-Cities, which was very well attended and well received, and Jen's had great success. And then we have another talk on TikTok here in TBEX Europe, and that's Leash Brock.
Leash Brock, yes.
And then Anton Diaz, who's always looking forward from Our Awesome Planet, our friend in the Philippines. He was one of the first people talking about Gen Z, and now he's talking about subscription models for monetize your content, which I am a huge believer in. I think Substack is definitely great for content creators and other models like that. There's one called Locals. There's a few others that are subscription models, where you don't have to use Patreon as some in-between thing to get paid from your audience. I think that's really important. And Shane and I just talked about it before we started. Definitely at the next TBEX, we're going to be talking about blockchain, NFTs, and crypto. And should you get paid? I think that answer is yes. And how does that work? And how can you get paid as a creator using blockchain technology? So new stuff.
Yeah.
Since the last time we were here.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about how is a TBEX North America different than TBEX Europe? How obviously more European speakers, but not only European speakers here. So, can you say, both of you, something about how it's different?
The main difference is the speaker mix. I think we have only flown in half a dozen speakers from outside of the European continent to TBEX Europe. So this is a very different, it's very much a European focused. Some of the topics are a bit different, I think, because it is a different market. You've got a lot of languages. It's a much more diverse area. So there are different needs here. So this is why I try to source more speakers within Europe, because it's a stronger understanding of what happens here. But, of course, it's not exclusively, because for almost every European country, they want North America as their key market. It's a key market. So we need to still bring that in, because they come
Americans spend more money per person than any other traveler in the world. Yeah. So every destination wants to attract Americans.
So we have to have that balance. It's about finding content relevant to this market, yet looking at also the source markets. So it's a bit of a balance here.
Rick, is that the same for North America? Do you have a preference to North American speakers, or?
Well, the domestic market in the U.S. is gigantic.
Of course.
Right? And now, so yes, depends on the destination in the States. And I think we've talked about this before, but it's been a little while at least. We work with the destination that's hosting us to determine where we focus some of our speakers on, because they have markets that are important to them. So in some destinations, like in Tri-Cities, the American-Canadian market is by far the dominant market for them. Versus if we were in an international city like Toronto or New York or Los Angeles, then they're going to be looking a lot more towards a European audience and audience from Asia, and they'll want that mix to have a lot more speakers from those areas. So it depends on the city that we're in North America.
Yeah.
Where in Europe, almost every destination is an international destination. But even here in Marbella, Spain is a huge market for them, followed by the UK, then Germany, the United States, of course, France, and now China here. Although this is a really weird time. You're not seeing a lot of people from China here right now. But that's a growing market for almost every destination.
I met one on the pre-bake yesterday and today, by the way, and he lives in Marbella. So, but he works for a Chinese magazine and is super excited.
Can we talk about something else that's new?
We can, please.
I mean, this is really important breaking news.
Oh, okay.
And now, breaking news about TBEX Europe.
Shane has a new hat.
Yes, the other one had survived for 8 years, and it was starting to look a little bit worn. So, and this is the thing with TBEX, and this is something that's really important when that hosts need to know, is that we spend. So I spent more than €100 on this hat, a Stetson from all the US, and a beautiful fedora, the king of hats in my opinion. And this is what people do when people come to TBEX. They stay for longer. they travel, they talk about it, and they spend their own money. So this is one of the benefits, and I'm a living example of that. So it gets its stage debut tomorrow.
And it's a really nice hat.
It is. And you know what, Rick? I was the only one from the travel community who actually visited Shane in Kenya. And when he came out to greet me, he wasn't wearing a hat.
You didn't recognize him?
I could not. Who is that guy? He looks completely different.
Okay, so let's ask Shane a question. Did you start wearing the hat just because you like to wear hats? And did it evolve into a trademark for you? Or, at what point did you realize, this is kind of a trademark and I kind of can't take the hat off now?
I first wore a hat in 1991. And it was an Akubra hat, so the Australian brand, which are better. No, it was
I have an Akubra hat.
It was a Dreiserbone hat.
Okay.
So more known for their leather skin, which keeps the weather out, keeps you very warm in a cold European winter. My face, it just didn't suit my face then, so I stopped wearing it. And then in 2009, I walked into a hat shop in the Sunshine Coast north of Brisbane, and there was an Indiana Jones fedora, and I put it on. I thought, my face is ready for these fedoras, and bought it. So it's just, I wore it even before I'm in this industry full time. It's just that I like wearing hats. I love film noir. Film noir, I think, is one of the greatest periods of Hollywood. And, of course, the fedora is everywhere in film noir.
For sure.
And so I have a nostalgia for it. I just like hats. It seems to suit
But
my
it
face.
is a trademark for you. It's in your
It is
logo.
a trademark now. Yeah, people don't recognise me without it. So everywhere I'm in Spain, I'll wear it when I'm kind of relaxing. If I'm somewhere where I don't need to work, I take it off. But
when you want to be incognito.
When I want to be incognito. But I went to Ethiopia recently and I wore it all the time when I was photographing then. But of course, when I wasn't doing that and just going out to get a meal or something, I didn't wear it. Actually, no, I did wear it almost all the time. Ethiopia, I love Ethiopia, so always have my hat there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to talk about Shane's hat.
Yeah. And here I was getting ready for another serious question about TBEX Europe. And I think I need a breaker here.
You're listening to Travel Matters, the official podcast of TBEX, the home of travel media.
Okay, I can give you something that's interesting about the speakers. So now, I have been in a position to know all of the talks and seen in fact, I have seen every presentation now. There is a trend coming through here that is quite unusual. So we've heard and we know that in the content creator community, people say that travel is political. Okay, so to me, travel is political. Yes, if you're from a certain country, you need a visa to go in, and that's political. But the number of speakers who I have just chosen to speak on a topic, whether it's a keynote or a session speech, that have introduced the importance of the human connection and the human element when travelling, and saying that travel is about that connection. It's about, we'll hear in the opening keynote about the importance of, from a mental and health perspective, how travel is, in two keynotes about this actually, how important it is, but also there are people talking about the connections you make and the stories you can tell and how that is why people travel. And I did not choose, apart from one session which I set up because I kept hearing it from all the other speakers in unrelated sessions, I thought this is a time to have this message because travel is personal. And I can tell you this morning, just in the table behind me, we were sitting here with the family, and my daughter, Avalon Malika, was making eyes at this boy, can you believe it, 5, across the table. And we've seen them last 3 mornings.
We've had some TBEX weddings before, Shane.
We
Maybe we should just say for the listeners how old is Malika?
She's 5. So she was making eyes at this boy, and they're all having a laugh together. I finally met them. They're from Chile. And the boy's name was Fernando, and we gave him a little coin from Kenya, which has a giraffe on one side. But that is what travel's about. It's connecting. These two children are connected, and now the parents are connecting, and we're all talking. That is travel. That is why so many people travel. And this message will come through. As I said, it wasn't intended to be there, but there are so many of our community that believe that this is what travel really is for them.
I think it's important to say, and we didn't plan to talk about this on the podcast, but I think it's a very important topic. Shane and I absolutely agree on this philosophically. I don't believe travel is political. I don't believe it should be political. That's my personal opinion. But travel
When you say political, what do you mean?
Well, there are some people that think that travel, I've heard the statement, travel is a political act. Like when you choose to travel a place, you're in effect approving of the way that country is operating.
Oh, I had that when I went to North Korea.
Like, for example, if you go to North Korea, you must love Kim Jong-il.
Are you putting money in his pocket?
Right. Or if you came to the United States, you must love Donald Trump if you came, sometime in the last few years.
That's exactly what I said to people when they said, how can you go to North Korea? You're supporting, do you like the leader? I said, well, I'm in America now. And that doesn't mean that I'm a fan of Trump.
Exactly. Now, I personally wouldn't go to North Korea, because I would not feel safe there. Now, Shane has a different level of comfort.
He's the travel camel.
Yeah, and he likes to travel to places that are less traveled by Westerners in particular, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll let you talk about this too, but travel to every one of us is a very personal decision. And I travel because I love history. I love culture. I love meeting people. I think it is a learning experience, not just seeing places and taking pictures, but you get a feeling for a place when you go there that you'll never learn in a book or a video or on the internet. It's just different. And you make those human connections. You make sometimes lifelong friends, like all of us sitting here, and other people who are that are at our conference, who have met each other, people you've both been on fam trips with. And that is to me what travel is about. And I think whatever your personal comfort level is of adventure, right, of where you feel safe, go there. Don't let the Philippines is another perfect example. When Duterte was elected, people said, I'm not going there because he's a bad guy. Or China right now, people won't go there.
And a ton of places in Africa as well.
Right. And again, if it's safety, that I understand. If you don't feel safe, you shouldn't go to a place. But you shouldn't go just because you don't like the leader or the political people in charge of that country. For me personally,
I agree.
The Philippines is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to in the world. The people are beautiful people, welcoming, just such a lovely country, physically, emotionally, on every level. I would not let a politician stop me from visiting that country.
No.
Yeah.
But would you go to Russia right now?
Not right now, just because it's not safe.
Is it less safe?
They're at war.
I know, but that's not.
Most of the war is in Ukraine, but I wouldn't not go because it's a great topic, right?
Yeah.
And I do think it was mistaken, and I don't want to be political myself. I think it was mistaken when all these different bodies started banning Russian athletes and performers. I mean, they didn't choose to go to war. Anyway, not to get into that, where maybe they took a public stand on their position on the war, that maybe that's different. But absolutely, Russia is one of the places that I haven't been yet, but I want to go to because the history there is incredible. Shane, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Russia's an amazing country to visit. But interesting you said about athletes and this being banned. The problem is I have been to countries subject to sanctions and this kind of ostracism and vilification. And the issue with when you start banning people just because of their nationality, it creates fear and suspicion and even a hatred. And that is a very long-term thing to overcome.
It happens in companies. It's pretty well studied where if you have, office A is located in this town and office B is located in that town, or even on the other side of town, it creates rivalries and suspicions. And so separation is worse than, and it's antithetical to me to travel. It's antithetical to the way I believe travel to be. The more places I go, the more I understand those places and how they are similar or unsimilar to other places I've been. Pally, you're much more well-traveled than me. I mean, when you go to a new place, don't you go, oh, this place is like that place?
Yeah, sometimes I look at the similarities and stuff like that. But yeah.
Can I just make another point here? You were saying about people boycotting or otherwise a country. To the best of my knowledge, there is not one country where absence of tourists or tourist going has changed a government's social, political, military, equality or freedoms. It makes no difference. Tourism impacts families, small business owners.
Absolutely.
This is why in eras of sanctions, say against Iran, North Korea, South Africa, Myanmar, I was there when Myanmar was under sanctions, tourism is not one of the things that are sanctioned. It's trade and finance and banking. It doesn't impact the government as much as it does in people, and we've seen with the pandemic who are the people who have been losing their jobs. It has been small business owners and families. It's government, tourism boards, they may be smaller, but they're still going. And it's the businesses, it's the family-run private enterprises that go out of business.
Also, again, I'm not against a government having sanctions on a government, right? Like the U.S. has sanctions on Russia, or Russia has sanctions on Ukraine before the war started, or any of those things. Okay, that's fine. Those are geopolitical decisions. We're talking about personal decisions. And what Shane said is absolutely true. If you say, I'm not going to visit the Philippines, or I'm not going to visit Russia, or I'm not going to visit country X because of their politics, you're not hurting the president of that country. He couldn't care less whether you're there or not. You're hurting the tour operator, the tour guide, the restaurant owner, the hotel owner. That's who you're hurting, whose people feed their families on tourism. And that happens a lot in countries that have authoritarian governments, or countries that have unpopular governments that are, in the general consensus have an unpopular government. But those people who I'm sure in many cases really are bad people, and again, I don't want to get into politics on who's the bad person, who isn't. We all have our own opinions of those things.
Sure.
But you're not hurting that person. You're hurting poor people. You're hurting working class people when you choose not to go there because of politics. Now, you could still make that choice, absolutely. If you feel strongly about something, I'm not saying don't follow your heart. Again, that's what travel's about. We should all follow our heart and go to the places we want to go to.
Agree.
Right?
It's a personal choice. If you want to go, go. If you don't want to go, don't go. What I don't like is the people who don't want to go then criticise the people who want to go. That to me is wrong. That's a personal choice.
Thank you for sharing travel matters with your friends and followers on social media. You're the best.
See, we went from Shane's hat to something more serious.
Got heavy, right?
Yeah. But what can we expect when we enter the doors of this beautiful conference hall?
Well, let's just talk about the opening, because that's the one that people will remember the most.
And we've waited
2.5
years for it.
Omo Newlander will talk about, and one of their earliest slides in the presentation is talks about there will always be travel. It's a beautiful presentation.
And she, for people who haven't seen her on the stage before, she's amazing.
Yeah, they are both amazing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That is fantastic. And then we have Theophilus from Minehouse. They've surveyed more than 80,000 people on European travel consumer sentiment, talking about the trends in travel. What is it that the European consumer is looking for when they travel? What do they want to do? What do they want to see? How do they feel? So that gives a overview for everyone at the event to say, when you were thinking about content, this is what the public at the moment is looking for, or certainly within Europe. So it's quite a different perspective. And I think it's needed at TBEX for Europe, because, we've found someone now who's got this knowledge, and it should be shared with. This is stuff that's not often shared at content creators. It's normally at trade exhibitions. But it should be here, because travel content creators need to know what this is, so they can
also think
share their
Shane,
audience.
I would say I'm pretty confident that what Theo's going to share tomorrow will confirm and affirm beliefs that creators have already. It'll just be data that supports those beliefs. So, for example, anecdotally, we all came here this week, and all the other folks came here. A lot of us had problems getting here. A lot of us got our flights canceled, got our flights delayed, got stuck because of a COVID test.
Absolutely.
Got stuck because of all sorts of impediments that are keeping us from getting from point A to point B, the places we want to go. Now, in spite of that, people want to go. I got stuck in Amsterdam for a day on the way here. Amsterdam was jam-packed. Again.
Yeah.
I know Marbella is jam-packed. When we had to move the conference because of COVID, the hotel rates went through the roof in a 3-month period of time.
Yeah.
The hotel we were going to be at originally, the rate was about 150 euros a night, is right now 900 euros a night and sold out.
Wow.
So what is definitely happening right now is everyone who has been stuck for the last 2.5, 3 years wants to go, and they are going no matter what. And I won't comment on, brands that are making the most out of that, but
you know who you are.
Well, and in a little bit of their defense, they got crushed as well for the last couple of years with no revenue.
Yeah, of course.
And those things. So, anyway, that is definitely something that's happening now. That travel is, and a lot of destinations are saying this is going to be their biggest year ever. I mean, a lot of destinations are saying that. Mm-hmm. But it's not normal yet. No. We're not back to normal yet. It's not as easy as it was before. We have to get tested to go back to America to prove that we don't have COVID before they let us back in. Mm-hmm. We didn't have to get tested to come here, but we have to get tested to go home. A proctored video test in our hotel room, and each country has different little rules. Like when we got on the plane in Amsterdam, we had to put on the mask to get on the plane, not in the airport, and then we got to Spain and we took the mask off again.
Yeah.
And it was just and there are lots of examples like that where policies are different every country you go to or even city you go to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're almost at a half an hour mark. Anything you guys want to add here before we wrap this up?
Oh, I'm finding it quite emotional. When I boarded the plane on Friday last week to commence the journey here to Marbella, I felt emotional. I felt a bit teary. I thought, it's actually happening. We got so close last time. We got within 2 weeks, and then it was just stopped. And to actually get on that plane this time, that was
and there was also a date in March. And when we met in late December, we thought, see you in March.
Yeah, that's right. See you in March, and now it's June. But it's thrilling, and I think
June 3 years later.
Yeah, but this is here. It's almost a sense of it being surreal, but in a very nice way that we're all getting together. And I think in the time from the pandemic to now, up until coming here, there's only 3 people I've met that I've known in the tourism industry. 3 people. I've seen more people in the first 5 minutes here than I had in the previous 2.5 years. So for me, it's astonishingly wonderful. It's terrific to be together again.
Yeah.
Palle, you and I have one under our belts since Shane. But yes, there are people that we're seeing here this week we haven't seen in years. Mm-hmm. It feels really good to see them again and to see that they're still being successful.
Yeah.
They've come through this on the other side and things are getting better for the future every day. So, it feels very emotional. We'll see if I cry again this time. I got away without crying.
Yeah, you held up really, really
I think I was just numb because of the whole thing. It was for the first time.
I think the trick was you were on stage with a microphone and you said, this is a time where I typically start to get teary-eyed.
Yeah.
And then you didn't.
Yeah, I addressed
that's the trick for you, Rick.
Yeah. But it does feel very, very good. And I'm excited to see everybody tonight and tomorrow as we get started.
And Shane, we're going to bring you back in Travel Matters because before we let you go in a few days, we're going to talk about TBEX Asia as well, that you have a finger in that as well.
I certainly have. It will be a very exciting event.
Not now.
A very exciting event. So this is a teaser to say it's going to be an exciting event, so listen to the next episode of Travel Matters.
Thank you.
This episode of Travel Matters was hosted by TBEX CEO Rick Calvert and Radio Vagabond Palle Beau and special co-host Shane Dallas, and produced by radioguru.co.uk.